It is time now for our Sunday roast and the hot topics in rugby league, and we will start with what has been the biggest story over the last 48 hours. It was that on-field altercation between Jonathan-Thurston and Spencer Leniu. Now, just to keep everyone up to date for those who missed it last night, JT has now released a statement which says, "I was shocked by what unfolded. I do not endorse Spencer's remarks from Las Vegas. The comments I made were an opinion on the penalty that he was given. The comments from Spencer were overly aggressive in tone and they were unwarranted. I remain available to discuss this matter privately." Now, this was the altercation then between JT and Roosters coach Trent Robinson in the tunnel after the match. So the matter is now in the hands of JT, Spencer Leniu and the Roosters. So until they want to say any more on the matter, that is where we are going to leave it for this morning and get back to talking about the footy and that great win from the Raiders last night. Jamal Fogarty, what a performance from him, 100 games in the NRL. But of course, we know that he has had his fair share of headlines as well, with news that Manly are chasing him as a possible replacement for Daly Cherry Evans. This is what both of the coaches had to say last night.
Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of a lot of innuendo and stories in the media, but I haven't spoken to Jamal. No one from our club has as yet.
Whether there's been contract negotiations with Manly or not, where you're not allowed to actually do it. But we'll sit down with Jamal early this week and we'll tell him exactly what we've got. So, mate, I'll know if there's been prior communication with Manly. I can tell a few lies to players to try and sign them and give them 2-3 year deals, but I can't look them in the face when I'm actually then not executing what I said. But I know other coaches and other clubs do, but I'm not to my player. And if that means I lose them, I'd rather lose a player than tell him a lie.
Ricky Stewart, passionate as always. So Ricky not happy with suggestions that Manly were apparently talking to Jamal Fogarty before they technically allowed to, which was when the Raiders didn't take up that option. But without getting bogged down too much in technicalities, essentially now as it stands for Jamal Fogarty, so the Raiders want to keep him. They can only keep him, well, they're only going to offer a 1-year deal at the start in the vicinity of $450,000 to $500,000. This is according to Michael Chalmers, who's been all over the story for the past couple of weeks. Manly expected to offer a 2-year deal, $1.2 million. So a lot to weigh up for Jamal Fogarty.
1.2 over 2 years.
Over two
well,
years.
That's a steal, an absolute steal for Jamal Fogarty. The current market, he's up around $1 million player, 100%. So if they get him for $600,000 a year, Manly, that's a steal.
But if you're Jamal, knowing that you're comfortable there in Canberra, do you back yourself to say, I'm going to have another year and I'm going to show I've still got what it takes at 31 years old?
I think there's a premiership window open for Canberra. I think him and Ricky have a great relationship. But at the end of the day, it's up to him, and he's got a young family, hasn't he, Bill?
Yeah, 2 kids and 1 on the way.
You can see what Canberra are doing. They've got some real talent coming through in key positions, and at the moment they've got some older players in these key positions that are certainly helping these younger players come through. The risk around taking the 1-year deal is when you're at that age, if you don't have the security and something happens, well, then you miss your opportunity of having a lengthy deal and that security of financial, with your family. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if he took that. I think if that is on the table at Manly, wouldn't surprise me if Jamal goes there.
I'd love to see him stay there. And if I was the game, I'd get involved in, seeing if he wanted to continue to be part of the game after he finished playing. I spent some time with Jamal in Papua New Guinea last year, and I don't think I've seen many more impressive people in our game at the moment than what he does on the field, what he could do off the field for the game. So if I was the game, I'd be getting involved and asking Jamal if he wanted to contribute at some stage to the game in the future. And I think down in that area around Riverina, Canberra, is a huge playground for kids playing sport. And I think if he was representing our sport down there, we'd be better for it.
You see a lot of the highlights of Jamal, his kicking game, Joel.
Yeah.
It's first class.
Yeah, he's one of the best organising halfbacks. He's a real steady hand. His kicking game's up there with the best, the way he organises his team, and he's calm. Seems to be always calm. So he would be an incredible pickup. 600,000? Can't believe that.
Yeah.
Can't believe him, the current market. Wow.
What about, you could just see last night, Ricky Stewart post-match was asked about Jamal, and he almost had to stop the interview because he was in tears, and he got so emotional talking about Jamal and what he means to that club. How much of a role does that play, knowing the bond that he clearly has with the coach? And obviously Ricky wants the best for Jamal.
I think it'll be a factor.
But it's special.
I understand they've got a great relationship, and Ricky's the one. He loves his players, and he's quite open about that. I don't know, it's a tricky one. It's a real tricky one. But I think he'd be a great pickup. But as I said, there's a premiership window down there at Canberra. It's a big decision for Jamal.
Well, from one halfback to another in Adam Reynolds, he's also been in the headlines. He wants to keep playing on. He said that he wants to stay in Brisbane. He then wants to be able to coach at the Broncos as well. I guess Broncos officials for the last month or so have been dancing around it, but we got Gus on the case to grill Lockie the other night.
Do you have the salary cap space to accommodate Adam Reynolds if he was to go around again?
Well, it depends on what Adam Reynolds wants to play for.
So that's a no. So it's really something you haven't budgeted for, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
I could watch this all night.
But he's a type of player that you would have to change course, change plans for.
So you'd have to make sacrifices to fit him in.
Correct.
So if you were the Broncos, Freddie, are you doing everything possible to give him a one-year deal and then find a way to have the coaching deal afterwards? Or
Well, they've got time on their side at the moment, so I think with Ezra coming back, Ben Hunt also, see how his year unfolds. So at some stage you need to make decisions. You know, you can't have everyone stay and keep everyone happy. Well, that's what salary caps do. He's doing a wonderful job at the moment. You can see, well, he looked injured last week, but he came back and played pretty good the other night. And the value he is you talk about composure of Jamal Fogarty, then, you know, this bloke is that again, great goal kicker. So I think he'd be a wonderful coach and someone to keep at your club. But you still got to also look at the progression of your club as well.
I think that's where it sits. I don't know the ins and outs on how it would work, but you know, this is a long-term relationship, Adam Reynolds and the Broncos. I think it goes into a coaching situation after his playing days are over, whether that's this year or next year.
There's also salary caps on coaching too, so it's not as though
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So there's also a cap for your staff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Well, because otherwise that's where the difference would come.
But he's as important to anyone as anyone in that Broncos team. You think about last week, it was 12-all going into half-time. He kicks a 2-point field goal to give him that little buffer at half-time, and then comes out and puts that little chip over the top and scores under the post. 8 points difference. So he's an important cog in that Broncos outfit.
It's amazing how we're valuing experience these days to talent.
Or potential.
You know, we're offering experience 400,000, maybe 600, and we're giving talent 1.3 million. Yeah. Like it's a huge difference.
What would you pay Adam Reynolds, Joey?
Well, on the open market, he'd be upwards of $1 million player. But in this situation at Brisbane, I think a fair number would be up around 600 or 700.
But the Fogarty thing tells you that at the moment, like being 36, I think Fogarty's a bit younger than Adam Reynolds, 35.
31. Fogarty's 31.
31. Yeah. Adam Reynolds is about to have his 35th birthday, I think. So, like that's, obviously numbers are coming into play there with age.
He's as fit as he's ever been.
Yeah,
he's taken the line. He's playing as well as he has ever played.
Well, he's in the top handful of players of influencing the outcome. You think about who influences the outcome. You've got a bloke in the one jersey at Newcastle this afternoon. He influences the outcome. Nathan Cleary, Cameron Munster. Adam Reynolds, he influences the outcome at the Broncos.
So the other one is Daly Cherry Evans. Like out of all of the older statesmen in the game, he's mostly the one that's kept his speed. Like a lot of them, as you get older, you lose your speed a little bit and you sort of get smarter, but he seems to have kept his speed. It's be very interesting what he gets when he goes to another club, how much money he demands.
For the Broncos, how much goes into it, the fact that there's a premiership window right now? So you can understand if they're in a rebuild phase, maybe moving Adam Reynolds on, but the fact that they have a premiership window right now, and we know that clubs need depth. I mean, what if Ben Hunt or Ezra Mam, Corey Pakes, anyone gets injured for the season, to have quality depth, it seems like it's a good idea, if they can manage it, to keep him around and strike while the iron is hot.
But we don't know what's coming through there. We don't see any of the Queensland Cup sort of competition. Kobe Black, I haven't seen Kobe at all play.
What else is the option outside Adam Reynolds? Is it Ben Hunt to halfback and Ezra Mam?
Yeah. Then who's your backup? I suppose Billy Walters plays in the halves.
Yeah.
There's chat that Billy's going overseas as well. Cowboys, yeah.
Right.
Chasing. I hope it gets done. I know I've spoke to Adam Reynolds, and he wants to stay in Brisbane. First thing he said, we've got a backyard. The kids can play in the backyard. It's a bit different in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. No one's got a backyard.
Is this the concerning trend for the game, that some of these more experienced players are just getting pushed out of the game through salary cap? Is this something the game needs to look at for concessions for some older players? That
Well, I think there already is concessions about players who have played a certain amount of years, especially at one club. You get even more concessions, I think. But then, like I said about Jamal Fogarty, I think he'd be an incredible representative for the game, like Adam Reynolds would be. And maybe this is where the game could help. If they feel like that person is suited for that area, then, you know, help out, find a way, make it happen, strengthen the game.
Well, the halfback chat, no doubt, will continue to dominate headlines for weeks and months to come as we wait to see what happens to Daly Cherry Evans, Jamal Fogarty and Adam Reynolds.